It's a beautiful film. It really is. And I obviously play the evil diva because apparently that is my lot in life.
Well, we all saw Phantom of the Opera. Well, actually, we didn't, but I did.
Well, not everyone.
The Graham Norton Radio Show
on Virgin Radio.
Like, there's a pretty nut story in the book about when I was 11 and I had a fight with my father and he put me on a plane back to England, but I had to go via Miami and stay a night by myself in one of the most infamous hotels in the world at that time. And I was alone for this, basically a day and a night. And I had a lot of people go, "What was up with your dad?" And
or how annoying were you?
Or basically, how annoying was I? Which I think is pretty much covered in the book. I think you get a sense of just how annoying I was. But I needed to give context to my father, and so I had the opportunity to write this story, and I wrote about him, and it's about the war that he had and that generation of men who just didn't talk about it. And at 18 years old, what he went through and what he survived. And to sort of become the man that he was, suffering from PTSD, for which there was not an acronym at that in 1939. Like it was really amazing to be able to write that and give that to him, because he was extraordinary, and it's nice to be remembering him on Father's Day.
And what struck me about that essay is you learning his intimate, extraordinary story from strangers while being filmed.
I know. I mean, God, it's just, I couldn't just do it simply by just going and asking him when he was, around. It was on, I was doing the genealogy show, Who Do You Think You Are? And I really did not think that I was going to find anything out that was going to be that cataclysmic. I thought it would be really interesting, but it was pretty astonishing going to RAF Hendon and finding out all of this. All of my father's war record was sort of there, and it was interpreted by a war historian, and it was extraordinary. It was absolutely extraordinary.
And your mom was still alive at that stage, wasn't she?
She was, and so she didn't know.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask. So she didn't know half of it. Oh, right.
No, she knew that Mum knew that he threw his medal in the Thames. He won the highest honour that a man of his rank, which seems awful at this point, that heroism would be ranked differently according to your status within the RAF. But anyway, he threw his medal in the Thames. I think his guilt and his PTSD, his guilt at being a survivor. And he never spoke about the war ever. And that's as much as my mother knew. So she found out, we all did, with this show, what his experience had really been, and how many lives he had saved, and how, his death was certain. When his plane was shot down by the Messerschmitt on the coldest winter in record.
Yeah.
And then there was this strange connection that he actually did end up dying on December the 18th, which is the same day that he flew that fated air battle in 1939. He did actually die on December 18th, just 70 odd years later.
Wow. And you write so beautifully about that, but you write so beautifully about everything. Your writing's extraordinary. And I wondered, because we all change all the time. And you were writing really about losing your mom and about that grief almost in real time. Yeah. When you were putting the paper back together, were you tempted to go back in and change it? Or did you read it and think, oh, isn't that funny? I didn't remember that's how I felt at that precise moment.
Do you know, I found it extraordinarily comforting. I cannot believe the writing of Mum's death, that exists as I almost use it like therapy. Like, I'll go back, and I can't believe the attention to detail is so acute, because when you're losing someone in real time, each second is imprinted or thrown into a bolder relief than the rest of your life. It feels like, to me. So when I go back and I read that story, it gives me access to her and to that moment, and I feel incredibly close to her. So I didn't want to change a word, because I also feel like memoirs are a snapshot of your memory in that moment. And I'm sure, if I wrote all those stories again today, they'd probably be a bit different. I don't know. We made this film, and Lucy plays Marie Antoinette brilliantly. And Kelvin Harrison Jr. plays Chevalier de Saint-Georges. It's so worth watching. It's a beautiful film. It really is. And I obviously play the evil diva because apparently that is my lot in life.
Well, we all saw Phantom of the Opera. Well, actually, we didn't, but I did.
Well, not everyone. Listen,
Not everyone.
Somebody's got to be the awful diva.
But Minnie, your awful diva in Chevalier, is she kind of an amalgamation of different characters, or is she a real person?
Yeah, you know what's terrible is that La Guimard was actually this amazing dancer in the Paris Opera, and actually a very philanthropic person, and they've used her name rather sadly and created her as an opera singer who it brings about his downfall. But she's an amalgam of basically the music, the whatever the what would be the music literati? If it's not literati, what would it be? The music
the clickerati, or the
clickerati.
I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
Clapperati.
she's basically that, and her along with Gluck, who was the composer who was made the head of the Paris Opera instead of Joseph de Boulogne, they brought him down, and he was terrible things happened to him. Terrible things. But it's an amazing movie.
Yeah, and it's called Chevalier in cinemas now. The other thing I want to ask you, Minnie, is because your writing is so fluent and beautiful and evocative, have you got the bug? Are you working on something else? Are you working on a novel? What's going on?
Yeah. Oh boy, I do have the bug. I have this story that I see it so clearly as a movie, and I see it so clearly as a book, and I am sort of weirdly writing both at the same time, and I will see which one kind of happens first.
The
but
book.
yeah, I am.
I'll tell you now, the book.
The book will happen soon. Thanks, Graham. Thanks for that.
Because it's much easier to write a book than make a movie.
I don't know. Like, I feel like you can, if you have the idea of a story, basically people love IP in the film business. So they love intellectual property. So basically, you can't just pitch a story idea, but if you have an actual story, like even if I wrote this as a short story, I could then go and sell that, and a film company could make that maybe even quicker than it's interesting. Like, I don't know. I think how long it would take me to write it as a novel. I mean, how long does it take you to write books?
I give myself about a year. It doesn't take a year, but I give myself a year.
It is a year, isn't it? That's what my mate Emma said. Emma Forrest, she's an amazing writer, and she said, yeah, it's like a page a day. I
Wow.
never wrote a page a day.
You know, I've never written a page a day.
No, never. I'll literally stare out the window I could write a page a day if I didn't get distracted by, daydreaming and the internet.
I so hope you write some more, because you write so well, Minnie. I know I'm not the only person telling you this. A lot of people are blowing smoke up your fundament,
really
and so they should. The name of the book is Managing
feels quite nice.
Expectations. Oh yeah, I bet it does. Buenos dias to you.